Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, or should I say good morning, buenos dias, and jung chaha. I just love the way Mandarin does roll off the tongue a little bit, though. Make you feel like you're saying something. Oh man, we got what is this? What are we on Thursday today? Oh, year of our Lord. November just floated by. I'm still pink from Halloween. Like man, where did November go? But
It went quick.
didn't it? Like we thought like September, October flew by, because they did. There's no holidays in September, like for real. Then we like a Halloween literally just popped up out of nowhere and it snowed. It snowed the whole day.
I still can't believe that. Well, I'm here in North Carolina, so
Rub it in.
we don't see snow.
Rub it in. Rub it in. Rub just because when I looked out my window and saw them hand-sized leaves, like leaves of snow falling from the sky. What is this? What's going on? We stayed in the house.
Jackets. We still walking around in jackets.
See, that's the next part that confuses me. Because this is why I say the statement often, I'm an optimistic nihilist, so I call bullshit on the human race. One of the main things I call bullshit on is the argument about global warming. Because there's no reason. Well, yesterday it started off, I believe, 32 degrees, but it was 65 by 3 o'clock. I'm sending my little girl to school in like 7, 8 layers of clothes. She got the Maggie Simpson libs going on, but she got a book bag full of all of these clothes by the end of the day. I'm picking you up in just a hoodie. No, global warming, whatever it is, I don't know what the Christians say. We know it's Revelations where you can't tell the seasons changing. Come on, people. But that's something, you know what, since we're talking weather, I like to start the heavy topics because today we're going to do one of our first episodes because I jump around a lot. For the folks listening, I know I do it often. I call them my character introductions because the first time I have somebody on, I like it to be real free form so we can just chop it up, just chat about whatever. But, when we come back, that's when we like to pick a topic category. And I like to start off a little bit lighter because, we're doing trauma today. Yay.
That's a big word.
Such a big word because it's a $10 word for the things that make us who we are as people. Yeah. It's not just the trauma we want to talk about. We want to talk about trauma responses. Now, a lot of folks know what trauma is. We know a lot of people talking. But the problem, again, optimistic knowledge here. A lot of, we have a tendency of speaking with grandeur. So we go for the obvious answer. We say trauma, the first words that jump into people's heads, child abuse, parents dying, divorces. Obviously, those are low-hanging fruits for things that we need to deal with in society. And I didn't mean that. That sounded kind of aggressive because I say low-hanging fruit a lot. But I want everybody. That's one of the phrases I want to be normalized, to be more healthy. Because something being low-hanging fruit isn't necessarily an insult. It's just the truth. Right. It's like, this wasn't much struggle for you to do this. Me doing a podcast is low-hanging fruit because I can talk forever.
Hey, but that's what makes it good. That's what makes it good. The content.
See? And if it's low-hanging, again, The Rock don't have actual acting skills. I mean, he's a cool guy, but he just be The Rock. That's just Dwayne Johnson on camera with his muscles. Like, come on. And we didn't even try hard. Like, we put him in the comic universe and we made him Black Adam. We made him the one comic book character that he actually looks like.
That is true.
Black Adam existed before The Rock was even like anything. Like, come on. Low-hanging fruit. That's a very low bar.
Yes, a mess.
It's low-hanging fruit. Oh, yeah, we have Miss Short with us again. We have Miss Short and Miss Walton. Y'all are awesome people. So, I was just giving the quick rundown. So we're starting with the whole trauma talks, but we want to do a little bit of a more specific dive, the smaller things. Now, we're going to start with 3. We're going to start small. So I've got 7 definitions, people, that we're going to run with. We're going to start with the first 3, which are the 3 common types. Trauma. We have acute, chronic, complex. Starting with the acute. Are those, what is it? They're very small occasion. Let's look at the full definition. Let me not paraphrase nothing. Because folks be like, you paraphrasing too much. Screw you. Y'all niggas was plagiarizing on your homework. Shut up. All right, let's give you this full definition. for the 3 core types of trauma. I should have had these notes pulled up. I do. It's on my laptop. I don't put my phone up. That should tell you something, right? So let's start with acute. Acute trauma are the results from a single incident. Now, I was saying a little bit earlier, Crystal, I was saying the problem with people talking about trauma is that a lot of time we go for the high, obvious, the deaths, your house exploding. Like, obviously, that should have been traumatic. You see somebody's body literally turn into pink mist in front of you and you're fine. Oh no. Whoa. What are you? But acute, like, I know something for me. Let's get real. Let's get real specific. Something that triggered it'll trigger me really badly because I knew I grew up in the churches and with military people, so I have a tendency of speaking over you, but not speaking over. But let me rephrase: of shutting you down when you're speaking about something that could be negative or harmful, and they do it with the best intention. You bring up, hey, I'm hurt about this. Hey, this is stressing me out. Oh no, just pray about it. Oh no, just do, it's meant with good intent, right? It's good intentions behind it, but you're still shutting it down. You're shutting me down every time. And it becomes a conversation where it's one-sided, where no matter what I say out of my mouth, you have pre-programmed responses. You just know, pray about it. You should ask the Lord, do this, no matter what I'm saying to you. That has made me an adult today that will immediately I'll snap the moment me and another man are having a conversation and it feels like it's one-sided. I work in a restaurant. Can anybody hear the problem with that being a trigger for me? Half the time I'm talking, folks will just be talking directly at you. I'm like, no, sir. Sir, do you want chicken breast or do you want a chicken patty? No, I just want this. Sir, do you want chicken breast or a chicken? No, you just need to do your job and give me what I asked for. I'm about to put your face in the fryer. And then I'm going to turn you to it. That's what I'm saying. There's some things, some people hearing this story like, what do you mean? That's just life. Yes, but that is brought on from the acute traumas we ignore. I didn't think about none of that growing up. Like, I'm a boy. You remember that? Again, that's the other acute trauma we're talking about here. For those listening, I got 2 Black women sitting here with me, so me saying that boy thing. No,
don't do that. Don't do that.
You gotta let it be known. It's like, it's a thing, because all of us have our own things. Because what is the sexism is huge. We all grew up with it. We Black. First off, we all grew up with the Black filter. And then we have to grow up with the various sexual filters that we have to live through for the gender norms, the gender requirements. I'm a boy. I wasn't supposed to have emotions. You wasn't supposed to cry about it. But when you say it nowadays, folks are like, oh no, you are supposed to cry. But why wasn't you telling me that when I was 8? Between the ages of 8 to 18, when I'm learning emotions, my body's developing, my brain is getting the new synapse connections. You're telling me, no, boys don't feel. I don't know. What y'all think? Because I feel like I'm not nailing the mark with explaining an acute trauma well enough. What are some other small ones that we ignore as a society on the regular?
You're hitting a lot of major points, and trauma and toxic in this culture is something that's dropped and misused. Everybody wants to be toxic. Everybody wants to be, trauma. Mm-hmm. But what is that really? Like you said, you have the acute trauma, the sudden events, the intense events, the immediate distresses. Then you have the chronic trauma, the prolonged exposure to stressors. Then you have the complex traumas, multiple traumatic experience over a period of time. I'm trying not to jump the conversation, but to kind of bring it into perspective, because you hit a lot of things. When you go into the trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. A lot of what you're talking about, in not being able to express emotions, the type of environments that you're exposed to. when you gave me the topic for today's podcast, my brain automatically like what could, because we're going into the holiday season. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these triggers and things that haven't been talked about, a lot of these toxic scenarios and trauma experiences that people have experienced throughout their lifetime are getting ready to just be kind of set on fire. So, how did I conceptualize that for the topic today? And what I want to kind of get into is parentification. Um,
What? That's a word. That's a brand new
yeah,
word for
it's when
rentification.
all of these things that you talked about of, you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to do this, you don't have a voice in the family. And we're specifically speaking, and like you said, what was the topic from the last time? We have to trust us to discuss us.
Us
Um,
must trust us to discuss trusting us.
and a lot of things, we like to sweep it under the rug in the Black community. We don't like to talk about a lot of things. And parentification is one of those things where children are put into positions of being parents, adult situations, things that they shouldn't be in. There's emotional parentification, instrumental parentification, and the list goes on. What does that actually look like? Taking on responsibilities that aren't ours, being exposed to toxic environments, domestic violence, emotional abuse, these different things that go along with being put into spaces. I think society call it, my generation, Generation X, latchkey kids, where we pretty much raised ourselves. Then you got, I'm about to say it, then we got the 80s babies, and you know what I mean by that, so you have all of these, things that aren't really innate to our nature, and then we don't talk about it. Here we
No, that's a
are.
big one. We just had a young lady at my job gets like she was there for a little bit, but she was what I believe 20. She had just like turned 20, and she's the oldest of 4 or 5 kids. But she had always been. But it was like she's 20, and her the four are like a year back apart. I think like one of them was like 12 or something. They're like, oh, so you've been a gap older sister. You've been the babysitter. You hit 10 and you had babies you was watching. That's we all know anybody listening, guaranteed you just imagine 3 or 4 people. We
Right.
all just we just used to, I grew up, my dad was brain damaged, like growing up. So like I mean me and my brother got used to saying hearing, make sure your dad eat, not hearing, oh, make sure the boys eat. Like the parental thing. What is it? It's like, Crystal, isn't that you? Say you got it's you and what you call it. Yo, you the single kid. That's what that is. You have to raise your what you
Hey,
call it. You and Daryl. There we go. Say Daryl's who I'm thinking of. He the one who he was raising his little siblings. There we go. We got a bunch of people, this limitless list. It's awesome.
yeah.
Again, being in the Black community though, or even in the Hispanic community, or probably even in the Asian community, we're used to that. Like, oh, we're supposed to raise each other. Mom and dad somebody had to work.
Right. And then you get into economics. There's so many avenues that this topic can go through, but in talking about mental health and healing, what do you do? Here we are now, 30 plus, and how is it showing up now? What do you do? Most of us have been operating in flight, fight, fawn, all of the above, and we don't even realize it. We don't even realize the effects that it's having on the relationships now. So what do
You
you
know what?
do?
I just honestly, because I'm pretty sure most people have never heard all 4 of those. Everyone's heard fight and flight. Everybody
Right.
knows my fight and flight response. But that freeze and fawn, the dips, those are the other 4 definitions. We have acute, chronic, complex traumas, flight, freeze, fawn. So fight and flight, we know those are pretty standard for the knowing. You're either going to have a response to react or run away. It might not
Yeah.
be a full-on argument, but it will be some type of action. Freeze and fawn, the depths of those. Let's dive in. Because freezing, we're going to do fawn first. Because freezing sounds like pretty straightforward, because it is the general slowing down, lack of emotion, disassociating. But there's a positive side to freezing. We're going to come back to it once we hit fawning. Because fawning in the Black community specifically, that's our biggest trauma response.
Yep.
That right, because fawning is you trying to placate, you trying to make everyone else in the situation
People
comfortable.
pleasing. People pleasing.
Look, there we. Why did placating come to my mind before people pleasing? I was really struggling. Like something is a two-letter word. It's two words. It's like PP. Whatever. I was trying not to be childish. Maybe who knows?
I think our good sis Crystal had some input she wanted to say. What you thinking over there, Crystal?
Um, well, so a few things. In regards to like when you were talking about earlier, Miss Gina, about the whole emotional piece of it. And I'm currently in therapy, so a lot of the stuff that you
Me too,
guys that we're
girl.
talking about, I actually had that conversation with my said therapist. And one thing that I do know that I recognize, and I even asked my own mother this, I asked, what do you know what emotional intelligence is? And she did not know. And but that's one thing that, like you guys said, in a black household, nobody even knows really, until none of our parents really know what emotional intelligence is.
That's
One
right.
of my friends, Lacey, the only reason why or how I was able to learn empathy in a more, I would say, detailed manner is that I actually had a guy, a male of my roommate, Lacey, that he taught me empathy. Like, because other than that, I was an angry person. Like, I may not look angry. It don't look like I turn up, but I get angry in the back because I wasn't taught how to deal with those particular emotions um, when it comes to like being frustrated. I only seen the types of responses that comes with it in those particular traumatic events of this is this book that I'm reading by, I'm gonna figure out what his name is. I'm gonna actually tell you because it's an audio book. But when you in all aspects of life, what we do as humans is that we make bids for some type of connection, emotional connection. And in those particular bids is what can create traumatic events like those acutes that he was talking about. I said this because I wanted to connect with you, but you disassociated. You froze, or however you felt in that moment. You didn't acknowledge it. And so now in the back of my subconscious, I'm like, okay, so when it comes to things like that, now I can do it. Now that's that acute, that small piece of trauma that slowly gets instilled. And when you guys were talking about flight, freeze, fawn, and fight, where I was when I talked to my therapist, I was in that freeze state of mind. And what that means is that um, I don't yell at me. I don't like being yelled at. And the moment that I feel like I'm being yelled at or talked down to, my brain just immediately just says, ignore
Shut,
everything that they're saying.
shut
Because
that.
it's one of those acute things, like you're talking about that. It's like, okay,
Oh, that's
so to somebody
complex.
else this is a small thing, but to me, you are going to get 100% ignored. I might probably get like 5%, so I'm gonna say 95. But if you're gonna start yelling at me and I feel disrespected, my mind freezes. I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna do any of that. You just not gonna get hurt in that moment. And those small traumatic things is in regards to getting those emotional bids that lead up to that.
No, that's rock. Because I'm glad you said freeze. Because like, I'm glad you did say the freeze part. Because most of us again grow up doing the fawn part that grows into freeze. They say fawn can grow into freeze, and freeze can grow into fawn.
Mhm.
Back and forth. Because the freezing, it can be a good way. Because most people who say they have the freeze response actually are people who have the mind like you. Because Chris, you're in the business and accounting, money management sector of professionalism. People who have that freeze response are the number peoples, the people who can see a problem and you can see it for what it is. That's the healthier side of the freeze response. Because in a fully healthy scenario, something bad happens, you'd be like, huh? Oh, building's falling. Just walk this way. It's a fire. Go this way. What are you doing? Come on. Why are y'all screaming? Then you're after it's over, and he's like, the adrenaline wears
Yeah.
off. Then you be like, oh my god, the building was on fire. Did y'all feel that?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
awesome part of the freeze. When you can express once we get the adult part, we can like, oh wait, you were what? My mom was yelling at me too much. And now that I'm an adult, let me not make nobody suffer for that. Because I'm working on it. I know I'm loud. And Crystal's my good friend, and I'm one of those people. I be trying to dial it back. Let me make sure I don't, I'll be too excited. Let me dial it back.
You
You'll be too
good.
excited.
And see, I'm kind of the same way. I grew up, single mom, military, all the things, the oldest of me and my sister. And, my response to that type of environment became the fight. I was very quiet, as a young kid, growing up through high school. But going into adulthood, I've been very much of the fight, flight. I fight and then I vacate. This first sign of disrespect, I'm not giving you no chances. I'm shutting it down. You getting all the things. And then, being in the profession that I'm in, it's like, girl, you know better. So then it becomes the withdrawal. And then it falls into the freeze, the fawn. And, I was like, for a while, I went into the freeze and the fawn where I just pushed everything away. I shut down. I stopped talking to all my friends. I pulled out of all of my organizations. And I was like, girl, you got to get this under control. So, I was very, thank you, Crystal, for creating a safe space to talk about therapy, because I too am currently in therapy. And that's what we are discussing is flight or flight, effective communication, setting boundaries, all of the above, how your
Yeah.
voice heard, how you can still be stern, because it's not okay. Because a lot of the thing about people is they recognize when someone is a victim of trauma and when they're operating in all of the things that we're talking about. And see, the innate nature of human beings is they play on those things. And what they
Mhm.
do is they corner you. And what I'm learning is to, I think my mentor calls it, she calls it being a responder instead of a reactor.
Yeah.
Learning how to, be among something and respond without reacting. Basically, learn how to respond without emotion, without those triggers, even when you're triggered, learning how to navigate those triggers into being who you want to be and not what that other person, kind of like matching energy. Me, my innate nature is to match energy. I'm a Taurus. I'm a whole Taurus. you know,
See,
I'm gonna give you the same energy that you give me. I love matching energy. That shirt, you decide how we gonna act today. So what we doing? That is me.
I'm with you on
But
that. That's my catchphrase. Keep that same energy.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree with it because when it comes to those, I had this one experience and it was real recent too, where I was in between fight and freeze. Because when you're trying to talk to someone and my whole thing is that when you're speaking, you're having a conversation, you're listening to understand what they're saying and then respond appropriately.
right,
Some people are just so consumed with themselves that they don't listen at all. And even then, I had this instance where I was talking to this guy. We were not agreeing on terms. And one of my triggers is that if I feel like you're talking down to me, if I feel like you are not trying to actually listen to what I say and what you're saying is more important than me, than what this conversation, the point of this conversation is, then I'm gonna be honest with you, I slowly get triggered. And the way that I knew this, because with therapy, I'm actually able to recognize it and catch it. But just because I can recognize and catch it doesn't mean that the effect in itself still won't happen in some aspects unless you have like that stop control. And so I got to a point where I knew I was getting triggered because in that moment my mind, I was so frustrated that all the logic that I had in my head at that time escaped. Okay, I couldn't even formulate a full sentence
Talk
to
about it,
be
sis.
able to even tell him what's going on, because at this point my piss meter is going
Yep.
up. I'm pissed at this point. And
My
Yep.
so it
piss
got to a
meter.
point where I was like, give me 2 seconds, give me 2 seconds. And it was getting blurry, boy. It was getting there. But
Sis was seeing
but
red.
I was okay. So
Period.
it got to a point where I had to walk off, and I turned around and I said, "Nigga," and I was like, "Up, that right there. That's when that freeze came into play, because I stopped for a moment, for a brief second. I assessed and I walked out and I left, and I told him, hey, I ain't coming back here no more, because that guy right there, I don't like the way he does business." So yeah, definitely in those particular instances, seeing your own trauma and recognizing it. And I highly, yeah, like I said, I highly advocate for therapy. Like
Yes.
there's not a lot of black male therapists out there. If anybody is watching this and you are a black man and you're going into that field, you gonna make some money, because
Bread.
Yes.
there's a lot of us out here, a lot of
Yes.
males out here that need a
Yes.
comforting space that's gonna tell them really what it is, because your
Yes.
bros can do that, but they have a biased opinion. You
That's
need an
right.
unbiased. You
Let's
need somebody
let's
gonna
let's
tell
I'm
say
you
glad
that
what
you.
it
I'm
again.
is.
glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
Because there's somebody said something to me a while ago, like it was the most surprising phrase to me. It was like, oh, it's good that you and like, because me and like one of my best friends, we always give each other too much grace. And I was like, what do you mean we give each other too much grace? They're like, oh, no matter what y'all do, y'all always make each other feel better about what you did because your focus is making your friend feel better. Let's go back to that placating word. Let's go back to that other word. You're not solving the problem. You're being very biased on your opinion. No, your friend is toxic. You got to tell your friends when they're being toxic,
Yep.
because we,
And
we don't know all the time. What did
that's
what our old
important.
teacher say? Dr. Leonard Moses used to say, "What you're doing versus what you're actually doing."
And that's why it's important, in as kids, young adults, you don't get to pick your family. You're still navigating on what friendship looks like, what healthy friendships looks like.
Healthy
And
friendships.
yes, and I cannot with you today, Sam.
You
But
gotta,
you're right though. You're right though. There's a thing called accountability. And if your friends and your circle and the people that you spend the most time with don't grow you, don't challenge you, don't stretch you to be better and hold you accountable, it's good to party, it's good to turn up, it's good to celebrate each other. But what about that emotional state? What about, your overall well-being? If they can't pull you in and love on you while they're correcting you. I'm not talking about those friends that are frenemies, secretly hating, used to you being that unhealed version of you and using your triggers and doing all those things that they're used to seeing you staying stagnant and stuck. I'm talking about your real friends, the ones that care about your emotional well-being. They care about your growth and what you look like, when the cameras are not on, when you're not at work, when you're not in your social settings, the ones that actually check on you and say, hey, look, bro, look, sis,
the
we've been
people who
noticing.
hear you when you're
Right.
quiet.
Exactly. You've been moving kind of different for a little while. We gave you time to self-regulate, but look, we need to talk about this. I'm so thankful for the people that I have in my life right now that are able to reel me in. They allow me to be my free self. But when it's time to get down to business, they like, look, sis,
No,
you need to go
let's
check
talk about
in.
that real in. Because I'm gonna put a point out here to show some accountability. I'm gonna show it.
That's okay.
Now it's the perfect time to show some accountability, because I'm Crystal here and one of my other hosts, best friend Gecko. They definitely reeled me in because I have manic depression. I have it on a good balance most of the time because I've always been in marching band. So the bouncing Sam has always been the manic me. I just let it run in the band room. Can't do wrong with manic me. But the problem is, if I go unchecked for so long, the manic turns into frantic. And that's when I get that's when I know I'm pissing people off, but I don't know it. Because I'm being the same loud me that I'm being. I know I'm loud, but I go from loud to obnoxious once I'm frantic. Like everything's static. Like, how? Everything's debating. I'm always like, how? What? How? No. Like, that's my tone of voice is punchy. And I was doing that with Crystal. She's one of the first people to point it out. I was like, huh? No, I'm not. I am not yelling at you. I was like, wait.
That conversation, I was like, dude, why are you yelling? What's wrong? What's going on? It's like you triggered right now, man, or something.
The whole time, like,
Yeah.
I had to sit. I got in my nice little yoga position, got to breathing it out. I'm like, whoa.
He hung up, and then he called me back. I was like, yeah, it's cool, man. I kind of figured, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't have responded differently, but therapy did it, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I would not have grown as much as I have without it. And it had to get to a point where I held myself accountable to the point where it's like, it's not them solely. It is also me.
Yeah,
that's the part.
So.
Being able to say in the moment, it's me.
That's what we do in these holistic streets. You know, when you're able to stop pointing the finger and go and put the pause button on and go within, a lot of times you'll find the things that you have a problem with are really your triggers. And nobody is responsible for your triggers but you. Nobody else is supposed to regulate your triggers. And that, honestly, that was a hard thing for me. And now what I find myself doing is walking away from those triggers until I can regulate them. You know, it's no one else's responsibility to make me better. That's my job. I have to do that work. That thing called accountability, and that thing that good sis mentioned earlier, emotional awareness. You know, in the psychology and mental health world, we call that emotional intelligence. Being aware of how you show up to other people. Be aware of what you're projecting, the energy you're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Shameless plug, your chakras are dusty. Align that.
Align it. Align them dusty chakras.
Okay.
Because what? Because you said that energy you put out, like, yes. What is it? RBF, resting bitch face, is a real thing. Yes.
And okay. I have it any day. And yeah, my husband, Jared, he will tell people like, babe, fix your face. I'll be like, what? I ain't did nothing. He'd be like, your face.
Yeah. I had noticed something.
Most of us are. Sorry, what was you saying? My bad.
No, I was saying when she was talking about the resting bitch face, I was thinking about, like, when I was a kid, my mom I always would say, fix your face. And I never really understood what that meant until my 30-year-old self worked with an 18-year-old, and it always looked like this kid is a deer in headlights or a squirrel, like extremely confused, super angry in 1 second. I'm like, is that what she was talking about? Because I just thought my face was just facing.
Like, this is what it looked like. What do you want me to do with it? You made it, Mom. Leave me alone.
And it's like, it's the whole confusions of emotions and trying to navigate them, because when you're in sales is a hard grind. You're getting a whole lot of rejections. Okay. And so being in that kind of field, that can antagonize a lot of traumas, because depending on your reaction to people and the emotional bids that you put out. So yeah, I definitely can resonate with that.
I'm glad because sales, like, 2020 lockdown, knock on wood for the folks it was bad too. But the lighted parts, I love the view we got to put on the world. And I feel like, professionally speaking, as far as all careers, all jobs go, that should have given us the light to shine about being better to your fellow man, you know? Like, with everything being closed, because once we saw all the rest of when the restaurants closed and the grocery stores closed, that's when everybody got pissed off. That's when everybody got mad, because they realized, with talking lightly, starting with customer service, everything had to be on the phone. So now we annoyed. The person on the phone, they don't really care. They're on the phone. Then it's the restaurant. Y'all couldn't take it out on people in restaurants, in grocery stores, at the currency exchange no more. Because again, all of us in these professions that are the service, because sales counts as service too. All of it is service, where it's in people's faces. You got to, no, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am. You have to constantly smiley face. Those are the careers that are definitely, like you were saying, those are the big triggers, because that's what we did, the fawning growing up. We did the fawning in school where we're just like, oh no, I'll smile. Everything you just said about me was completely wrong and you bogus, but I'm gonna smile anyway. All I'm trying to do is collect my money today. I'm just trying to ask you if you want this. You could just say no. Like, damn. You ain't have to do. You have to go on me because I'm just trying to sell you something. I got bills. You got bills. I'm trying to pay them. Because it is the problem. Me being the optimistic nihilist I am, the problem with the world. Because yes, as humans, as Homo sapiens, we have this competition, this competitive. It's in our DNA to compete in an unhealthy environment that we're with the social, political, economic, spiritual stance we're at right now in 23 is confusing. If we take a step back, all 8 billion and some change of us on the planet, take a step back and realize there's like only 20,000 people on the planet who are actually bad people. Just in the sense, generally. Remember, Dahmer existed. Remember, that nigga was alive and he was charming and polite to people. All serial killers politely got people to their houses to kill them. Most of them weren't just kidnapping niggas violently. No, it was like, oh no, come here. We ignore the bad parts of society because of the worst parts of society. The bad parts are those people who just believe they're toxic. They believe them being able to snap whenever they feel like it. You're supposed to be deal with my resting bitch face. That's the bad part. Because they know the worst part. Like you were saying, the people who would intentionally prey on your triggers. Someone who knows they can control you easily. Because the lighter side, Crystal, I know you get triggered easily, but somebody talking down at you. All I have to do is make it seem like I'm always listening to you. But behind the scenes, I can really be ignoring the fuck at you. But as long as I'm feeding to avoid, I forgot the phrase for it, but it's a way of manipulating somebody with their triggers.
Narcissism.
But here's go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that narcissism. Yeah, say narcissism.
Yeah, that's narcissism. Because here's the thing, I've ran into that a lot. When people would actually ask me for advice, for one, a lot of the times it'd be relationship advice, and I'd be like, I ain't never been in one, so I don't know what you want from me, but I'm gonna give you my single-minded mind. And so they would listen to what it is that I have to say. It makes sense. They nod in their head, and they do the exact opposite. I was like, you ain't listen to shit I said, huh? Well, there you go. And I just be like,
you got to end it with a do you though? Do you? I guess do you? I mean, because
it's like I don't know what you asked me for. Because
could have just thought it real hard at me versus putting me in the conversation. Now it's confusing.
Like, don't ask me if you're not gonna actually listen. So I just sit there now.
No.
Ask for the opinion, I might give it.
Here's this. I've learned to navigate through that, one, as a professional life coach and wellness practitioner. Your energy is your currency. And one thing about healing is that I like to keep in mind is when you look at somebody who is operating in their trauma and they don't, because you said a very profound thing, when you mentioned that you asked your mom, what is emotional awareness? Are you aware of these things? A lot of us I will say, since we're talking about the Black community, are unaware of our trauma, or we're aware of it, but it's like you said, it's become a norm. It's become so normal, and no one has given us the tools and sat down, because why we don't talk about it in the household. It's starting to pick up now, and I'm so glad, even though all of the terms, as we talked about earlier, are being misused, but it is a conversation now. At least, we're in the room and we're having the conversations. But what we have to remember that once we start, doing our work, is that everybody's not there yet. That's where these boundaries come in. Just because you're ready doesn't mean that individual's ready. Like you said, you're 30 and you're just now really starting to navigate that and walk through that process. That other person hasn't gotten there, and that's where we have to show people grace. But that grace to me has become, I don't use that word very loosely, because as I'm creating my boundaries, because now I'm able to assess and be like, I still love this person. I still like this person, but this healed version of me, is that person worthy of my energy? And what does that look like? It doesn't mean you have to cut that person off, but you just have to begin to place people in their respective places in your life. Meaning,
Facts.
if you're growing, you've now elevated. It doesn't mean you throw people away. It just means you give them that space to do what they need to do. But you put that pause button in your life where you're not over explaining. Yes, you share the tools, but like they say, just because you plant the seed doesn't mean that you're going to get the harvest. Because you may say something today and it may take that person 2 to 3 years. But where you're at in your life, do you have that 2 to 3 years to wait for them to catch up? No, you don't. And you don't have to. But you place them now where they need to because, like you said, you fought too hard to get where you at for them to pull you back. And then there we go back into that responding versus reacting type piece. So as you heal, you give them the grace to navigate where they are, but you also are learning to put in those healthy boundaries to where you're not putting yourself into positions where you have to defend yourself, or now your triggers are being triggered again, and now you got to navigate your stuff again. So that has been, for me, that has been my challenge. But then as a professional, as we get into professionalism, you know, we don't do the I won't say we don't do these things for free, but we don't do these things in such a way where how you tell a person something, one thing, okay, they didn't catch it, okay, now you tell them something again. There becomes a time where you got to put that pause button in that area too, whether it's friend, family, associate, coworker, because after you tell somebody a certain amount of time and they're not listening, it still goes back to that we planted the seed and it's not going to grow, but you have to give that person space. Okay, they're not getting it. And that was hard for me to learn too. When people started walking away from me, I'm like, dang, you know, they see me struggling, why won't they help me? Because it's not their job to help me. It's my job to recognize that in myself. So until we people, whoever gets to that place where they're ready to heal, that term where they say you'll know when you've had enough of a situation to start putting in change and implementing change and using the tools or even seeking the tools to be a better version of yourself. Once you start your journey, you have to start putting in those boundaries and being responsible enough to hold those boundaries in place, because nobody else is going to hold those in place. It's your responsibility. And that's where that term is. You teach people how to treat you because they're not going to do it on their own.
True.
I 100% agree with you, and I could resonate with that on a different level, because I was working as a lot of my triggers started during COVID, like when you couldn't fawn anymore, you couldn't glide over life or things that were happening anymore. You were literally, what is it, that Stockholm syndrome where you basically locked in a room?
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what I wound up going into. And because I was on the phone and listening to people, as a financial aid advisor, you learn that a lot of people are struggling financially. Some of those people were really depending on those stipend checks, refunds, in order to make it to next week, next month, whatever. And so to get a lot of calls like that and knowing that you couldn't do anything, definitely emotionally taxing. So it definitely goes out to all the customer service people that are over the phone, that you're at home and you kind of have to sit in that. Granted, you can do all that you can to not allow that to affect you, but unfortunately at some point it's going to, because that it's reality and it's deep, and it's a really deep wound, especially if you can relate to being homeless at one point. So me encountering that, and what I was feeling was particular when it came to like the financial piece of it. I understand what it looks like, what it feels like to struggle financially, or seeing an adult that you're like your parent or like a family member struggling financially and you wanting to help but don't have that power to do so. Those small like triggers, you start to realize, and then you go and you spiral, and you're in your house yelling at the top of your lungs because you're so frustrated on this one thing and how it's affecting you mentally, to a point where you're just in your room either crying your eyes out or tearing something up, kind of depending on what side of the spectrum you're on when it comes to how you react. So me going through that and learning a little bit late in the game of being able to understand my own emotions, or even to be able to know what emotion that I'm feeling at that time. Now that's the crazy part. I had to look at a feelings wheel to know what it is that I'm feeling, and how it bled off into like my romantic relationships, how nonchalant I was, how I wasn't able to interpret, okay, this is her bid for emotions. This is where she's trying to be understood and acknowledging. Here's the fucked up part. I saw it and I acknowledged it, but my mind just ignored some of it. It just glossed over it. I still haven't figured that piece out, so I'm gonna talk to her about it. But at the same time, sometimes even as humans, even when we go through that traumatic stuff, we notice it and we know that it's a problem, but we choose to skate over it because it's too emotionally or mentally, sometimes physically taxing to actually deal with it, because your entire body is a trauma body, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because when you recognize whatever that traumatic event is, your entire body feels it, whether
Yes.
it's emotional, physical, or mental. Your
Yes.
entire body will feel that.
Because it's true.
Yes.
So
We have a lot of guru combos, a lot of gurus who try to tell you we are not our traumas. Because
Oh,
true, we are not our traumas. However, we are our trauma responses. Because
it's
the
a
way you
cellular.
respond to it definitely shapes you as a human being, just as you are. What you from that again, those years of like 8 to 18, when we're like technically have to be excused for being bad people because we're learning how to regulate these emotions. You got balls and periods dropping, a whole bunch of things happening internally. Like,
But how about this one? How about this one? Um, as you know, I am getting my PhD in metaphysical science and holistic medicine. So it gets a little deeper than that. Some of our emotions don't even belong to us. Some of these emotions were given to us by our mother in the room, her emotions and things that she experienced. Some of those things can be corrected and some of those things can't be corrected. So Crystal is absolutely right. It is your whole entire body, your mind, your body, your spirit. So that's why it is really important to be emotionally aware, to start doing the work, to start, navigating through those relationships and environments that are quote unquote toxic, because it really does matter. You have to really get to the root of those things when you start showing up in a way, because and it's hard. Jer, for certain, my husband, he's definitely made me look in the mirror like, like, what you talking about? Kind of those moments of, why you talking to me like that? Why you yelling? Like, you ain't mad at me? And I'm like, yes, I am. Because, I told you yesterday to put them socks, so and so and so and so. And he's like, babe, it's a sock. And I'm like, no, it's the principle behind da 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 da. And he's like, you want to talk about it? And I'll be looking at him like, no, I really don't want to talk about it. But though, it's those deep things, that we don't pay attention to. um and something that Crystal said was, I noticed in COVID forced a lot of people to look at themselves, to sit with themselves, things that have been there probably since childhood, that they never noticed, that they just kind of got used, like she said, to glossing over, never really had to deal with. But when you had to sit in that stillness, when, like she said, when you couldn't go to the store, when you couldn't go to work, when you couldn't get away from those said, quote unquote toxic relationships. And my heart goes out to the people that were in domestic and emotional situations that they could no longer run from, those children, that were in those, violent situations, that they didn't have an out to go to for school. That is when we saw mental health really exasperate and really, kind of unfold into what we're seeing now in the mental health, and holistic wellness world. Now everybody, it's become a fad. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because there's a lot of misinformation that is out in these, social media streets. And so I really commend you, Sam, for building this platform and bringing, myself and, others like Crystal to really start having these more in-depth conversations. And I'm with Crystal. If you're not, if you're contemplating whether to get therapy, go get the therapy. You know, if it's too traumatic for you to start therapy, go get a life coach. You know, go find a community where you can start focusing on you, you know, doing things, you know, with a community with like-minded people that are focused on healing, you know, that love you and accept you for who you are and see you and give you a voice and help you learn how to use that voice and start building on those things. So, you know, I think this whole platform is dope, Sam.
Oh, that's part because I'm finna piss some people off with this. My response. People about to get mad. And these Christians about to get mad at this one. But if you really a good Christian, you got dust them off. Because if you a good Christian and you get mad at my next statement, you a bad Christian. Okay, so everything that Ms. Walton just said about life coaches and things, if you go to church and you don't, and your pastor, the deacons, the people telling you stuff are not life coach style people, you're not at a church. You at a place where people like use y'all to collect money. Because guess what? That's your whole job as religion. Like there's a pastor's entire job is to watch after the flock, his congregation. His whole job is to preach on Sundays, Bible school is Sunday school, Bible school, somebody lesson or some on like a Tuesday. But the rest of the time, he's supposed to be ready to give life advice to everybody who sat in that sermon. To be able to say, hey, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do, young man. Oh, young lady, you should do this. Oh, that's supposed to be the pastor's job. All the religions. That's supposed to be. You have the Catholic confessionals, all those things. If you're not getting that, change up the place where you worship. Because we done messed up the religious mantra through the years, because most people just know religion is a way for people to make money with no taxes. Unfortunately, because it is the truth. We have, what's that man, Joel Osteen? What's that man who's still on late night TV?
Woo!
Reverend Peter Popoff. That nigga's still alive. Popoff is alive selling Miracle Water still. He's still out.
Why are you acting up on these people on Bill Gates' internet?
Because Joel Osteen and Peter Popoff came on Beyonce's internet and had the nerve to say that they, I didn't have to have my doors open at Katrina. You have you can fit like 4 college campuses at Joel Osteen's fucking church. Popoff has been selling. Popoff has, what is the name of the album? I believe it's called Spiritual Healing. It's a death metal album made for him to diss him. There's a diss track for a pastor.
What's his name? Benny Hinn? Does he still come on?
He probably all of them late night. As soon as they come on, they got a towel in their hand around the bottle. This the mic. They got the towel around it for some reason. Like, why is the towel always around the microphone? They just over here yelling about nothing. They sweaty as hell. You look at all the videos, it's the same 10 people getting healed from like fake things. Like, this dude was blind last video, but now he can't walk. Which one is it?
You're bringing up a whole nother topic that we need to discuss when we talk about our spiritual beliefs and our daily practices and what that looked like in the melanated community before. And yes, I'm going to say the word colonization. Because that's heavy. What these things actually look like, and that's gonna be a whole nother topic. I'm gonna put a pause on that. We're gonna dive
because that spiritual talk is a whole. Because I got a lot of complex traumas attached to growing up in the church. I'm a preacher's kid.
There's a whole lot to unpack with that one. But it's very relatable to what we are talking about. In as far as mental health, your day-to-day life, how you honor, your life, how you honor the ancestors, how you, honor humanity, how
I'm glad you said that, because let's hit back on the trauma response of fawning. There are a lot of subcategories and divisions for that, because for the people pleasing, that's for us brothers and sisters, for the Black queens, kings, and everybody in between. Here's the thing. Fawning, some people think of the people pleasing, they're thinking of the groveling. Don't think of groveling, because that is people pleasing, but we're not talking about the groveling. Those of us, I'm gonna say us, who are unaware that we fawn. The key thing is, I say there's a joke I crack. The two most dangerous species on the planet is a woman that knows she's fine and a man that think he's funny. I say this, the man who think he's funny part, that's a deeper statement. I go into long lectures with my students, with like my boys, anytime I go into long talks, because the man who thinks he's funny is always pain under it. Because the biggest fawn response is comedy. Because laughter is the biggest coping mechanism. Those of us, we get in an uncomfortable situation or someone asks us something, let me back it up. Toxic. A lot of niggas it's not even that they're toxic. They're fawning. Their reaction is to fawn when you present them with an issue. They did something. They might not have necessarily texted. If you look at my phone right now, there's like 6 different girls I text good morning, love you text to. If you look at it and was to read it and didn't know me, you would not be able to guess which one of them I go with. Because all of them have hearts. All of them have equal amounts of like me paying attention to your life, loving, speaking life into you statements. A lot of people are like that. There are a lot of guys who are genuine, have these relations with people, but guess what? The mermaid manatee theory exists, where a manatee will eventually look fuckable to you. I'd say it like that to sum it up quickly for the folks listening. Why'd I get so vulgar? Because that's the truth. Someone who wasn't sexually attractive to you eventually can become sexually attractive. In a lot of men's cases, that'd be the problem. So yeah, they might immediately crack a joke. They start making a joke out of it. They're coping. They're fawning at you. They don't have a clue how to
be loud and
obnoxious.
You know how they say, why they always so loud? It's a cover up. It's a mask.
There we go. It's mask on every time. Like, this is we're millennials. We the millennials here.
I'm working on a master class for that right now, and it is called Mask Off.
I need to sit in it, because us as millennials, we probably the worst at it. Because that's how we knew how to do. Again, like Chris was saying with the growing up with the parents, we have a freezing or we have to fawn. So we have to start making a joke to try to make our parent not be as mad. Most of us who grew up with the single parent household, code switching. That is the big, us in the Black, because we think about it only with like doing it while we're in a professional setting. I'm going to speak with my professional voice. No, the code switching, we do the worst with our parents. I curse like a sailor. Like a sailor. Every time my mom listens to these videos, she was like, what? Like, why do you curse so much? Because that's when I'm not talking to you. That's how I talk. Sorry.
I was gonna say a trauma response is anything that cripples you from being your authentic self. And I would say that at some point in time, everybody does every one of the trauma responses. It just depends on, like you said, the environment, the people, and what, the environment, basically. It depends on what you're doing and, what mask you need to put on for that moment when you haven't addressed what needs to be addressed. But anything that does not allow you to be your true authentic self and feel safe while doing it is, in my opinion, a trauma response.
I think so too. I'm gonna relate to you on that. It's something happened recently where I was out with a friend. We was just chilling and stuff, and I was being my authentic self. Sometimes my authentic self, it is not that I'm loud, but other people can't hear me. And what I might say is not that I'm being rude. Sometimes it just be factual. Like, for example, like, say for instance, if we see a bunch of geese or geese outside or something like that, and I say something maybe obscene for a joke, some people laugh, some people didn't, but what they would say, and this is what I hear a lot, and you hear this too, Sam, this is why we don't bring you outside. I'm like, what? It is. I was just, trying to have some fun. And then at that point, I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna just be quiet, because apparently I can't. I'm a little weird. Okay, let me say what I got to say.
And mine is, she always take it too far. No, you was just out of pocket.
For real, people, don't invite us outside if y'all like want us to be quiet. Like, if I decide to roll down the hill because we on a walk, you supposed to just roll with me or ignore it. Don't you? It's the hill. It looks fluffy. Want to roll down.
Look, and if you don't want me to turn up, don't invite me to the fight. Period.
How weak.
You should have minded your business. Why did you do that? You didn't put your hand in the lion's mouth, did you? You blame the lion. Like you couldn't
You gonna
remember.
blame the lion? He
This
bit
is
me.
not
You could have
effective
said.
to what we are trying to put out. Don't listen to us, y'all.
Look, we are being accountable here. We know our stuff. We know our triggers. We know when we there, and we know to tell people, hey, hey. There's a line crossing. I know I don't have lukewarm. Like that's not a setting in my
Yeah.
soul. It's cold or it's hot. I keep trying to begin reel my volume back because I get turned so quickly. Just, but not tell them no. Don't how to do. We was to do it. I'm trying to have to pause for a second because this is a young man I worked with, and there is so much that I need to bring on the podcast to talk about because there are some scary conversations I have had. Some scary conversations I've had as a dude, and this gonna be the segue. Because let's get to some of the specific parts. Because while I have two women on the podcast, it makes no sense for me not to use this here. All right.
Hello, you ready, Crystal?
Because some of it scares me.
Scared
Because some
me.
phrases people say scare me. Because I know I grew up, I was raised by my mama and all her cousins and sisters and the church women. Me and my brother were the only dudes everywhere we went. So the woman's plight has always been at the front of my mind. I've never affronted none of my paramours. None of my significant others. They was on their period. You on your period. I got chocolate here.
Lord, here we
You know,
go.
I'm dead.
I ain't never said, oh, you crank. No, I get it. That's a Satan's sacrificial waterfall. But
Yes.
you know,
I cannot look now. I'm gonna do the shameless. We can't take you outside. Can't take you nowhere.
I'm all for it,
it's,
man. Cause it's
okay,
like
it's
I
certain
get
things in
it.
the dating world. Because the dating traumas, the romance. Let's just say romantic traumas. If we're gonna put a header on it, because a lot of people. We have this a lot of podcasts, the black podcasts specifically, they are doing the split down the middle, trying to ignite the gender wars. Well, men are doing this. Well, if women did this, well, if men, the answer is there are 8 billion people. There are 8 billion different perceptions of reality that create one reality. The romantic answer is to find people whose versions of reality fit and complement your own. We have this split going constantly. Well, yes, women feed men and men feed women. The things men do are women's fault and vice versa. It is circular because that's how we learn. Let's stop fighting that fact, people. You don't learn a heterosexual man, me speaking as a cisgendered heterosexual male, as me being growing up, once I realized I liked girls, the girls I interacted with that I wanted to flirt with are what built my belief system on romantic nature. No matter how you view it, it's either positive, negative, or neutral, but not even really neutral. It's just when I say neutral, I mean these are the things you've learned to accept as it is what it is.
Well,
Uh,
go ahead,
But
Crystal. I'll go after you.
so I am a lesbian. So that means my interaction with the same sex in the romantic field is highly I don't even really want to say complicated because each, heterosexual or anything like that has its own complications. But what he was saying in regards to like how it shaped your way of like romanticizing people is that me myself, I do the fawning part in regards to like not really fawning. I more so will like, in order for me to get in the favor of whatever female that I might like or find interest in, my job in that moment, as like anybody else, is to get her to let her guard down. And then at that point, that's laughter. You know what I'm saying? Cracking some jokes, doing funny stuff. And then slowly slide in that way to let them know my attraction. But even then, I still had to learn and navigate that because the way that a male would approach a female, I can't do the same. So I literally had to learn a different way of approaching women so that they know that I'm attracted to them. Because in the lesbian community, if I look at you too long, that means I'm trying to get some. It's like that's not really it. Like I half the time it's like if I'm striking up conversation with you and I'm trying to get to know you, then that's me trying to figure out whether or not I'm interested at all. Because just because you're attracted don't mean anything. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean I want to have fornication or sex with you. I'm a demisexual. So what that means is that I need to have some type of emotional connection in order for me to even want to do that. And because of the most of the women that I've approached or found attraction in were mainly straight women. And that in itself is a problem in itself because I talked to my friend about this, Zakia. Sometimes people are crystal sexual. Some of these females are crystal sexuals, and what that means is that they're attracted to crystal. They're not attracted to the fact that I'm a woman. They're attracted
Oh,
to
fuck
my
your
energy, my aura, and
Calvin.
who I am, and that's a good thing. Not saying that is
Go ahead,
not,
flip it,
but at the
Crystal.
same time, you can't ignore the fact that there's a cooch here, man. You know, that exists. That's right there. There's no, just because my masculine energy is strong enough to put me in a room full of men and they'll forget that I'm there, but then I'm like, oh wait, Krista, you are here. Woman's opinion. I'm like, okay.
She
I
ain't
was here
lying.
the
She
entire
ain't lying.
time, but all right. So it happens. So I understand it, and
That's
why I'm
real.
bringing that up is that it gave me a shape and understanding of how strong my aura in itself is, past all the trauma, past all the bull that you go through in regards to the relationship aspect, but how those small traumas of dealing with so many straight women may have possibly affected what I previously was trying to do. Granted, we moved past that because that was my thought process. This is just another straight woman that's looking to have a good time. And fucked up part, I was okay with it because that's what I was accustomed to. That was a trauma that I built on my own, aside from like whatever else. Because
Shout out for that
um
accountability you just said right there.
Yeah.
shout
well,
that out. Talk about somebody did that on my own. Yeah,
I
accountability.
did because it was learned behavior because I wasn't around lesbians. I wasn't around any masculine presenting women to be able to have those conversations like men have other men around to be like, this how you navigate women. I didn't have that. I had to talk to other men who most of the time they talked about sex and stuff like that. Like I knew about the sex part, but the actual communicating to get a point across on that romantic level, I had to figure it. I'm still in the process of figuring out how to do that because I feel like if I'm direct, I'm a direct kind of person. If I say, look, we about to go out and do this, I never said it was a date, but they be thinking that. So I be having to figure that. I be having to like
You're
play
such a boy.
fucking connect the dots
Such a boy.
blind. So
No, but
yeah,
that's real. That's exactly what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like the way we respond, the way we learn things, and the big part you said is the learning the traumas we put on ourselves for what we try to do. Because I agree, my dad was brain damaged, and I didn't know most of the people who had husbands or baby daddies. I honestly thought most of my cousins and god siblings was immaculate conceptions. Like, hey, she ain't had no man. I ain't never seen her with a man. She ain't had no man. What do you mean? It's the truth.
You
You know? I ain't never seen that
know,
nigga. But it's
well,
the
my
truth.
I'm sorry.
No, that's why when people get on us because we be so excited. Get to talking about it. I'm like, let me reel it back because I will talk over somebody because I can listen and talk at the same time. So I'm
That's
like, wait,
okay.
I'm recording.
My response to that is going to be a little different. And I 100% agree with everything that you just said, Crystal. However, this goes back to something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago in our first podcast, Sam, that list, of where women right now and men are having this debate on what's acceptable for a first date or a date at
Mm-hmm.
any time. So I'm gonna put a little spin on it. Since we're talking about emotional awareness and mental health in this segment. Um, Regardless of who you choose to love and to be in a relationship, whether that relationship is romantic, or platonic. Um, but more specifically, in a romantic relationship, there is always going to be masculine and feminine energy, whatever aspect you come into. And so it's important to one, balance those and nurture those and be able to tap into your emotions appropriately. However, if you have never seen that, meaning a healthy relationship, be it, because we all know that the first experience with that is in your home. So if you're already navigating through what, our topic today is trauma, of course, when you become an adult or a young adult, an adolescent, and those things have not been developed, it's going to show up in your adult life. So
Well,
what does that look like moving forward? The objective of any relationship is to feel safe, supported, and loved. And those are the things that I feel like you should go into any relationship looking for. It doesn't matter, if you're in the LGBTQ, did I say that correctly? Community, or if you're cis gender, and you're operating in a heterosexual relationship. The objective is to be healthy, is to feel safe, to be able to have effective communication and feel safeguarded, period. And those are the things that I think that a lot of us miss when we're in intimate relationships. We miss that foundation because society has, put so much emphasis on sex and, all these other things, and,
the
oh,
B is gender war.
right,
Women are
right,
supposed to be women are
right,
only supposed to be interested in men if the man is paying all his bills.
right,
Men should only
right.
be interested in these women if she's a porn star. It's like,
And what happened to supporting one another emotionally, mentally, and physically? I mean, sex is always going to be there, but if you can't support someone emotionally and speak to them on, a different level, then what are you doing? Like, what is your relationship really built on? If you're not focusing on how to make one another better, or focusing your energy on how to help that individual become a better individual so that they can be a better mate and a better partner for you, then what are you doing? What are you doing?
playing, just
What you
playing
doing?
around because folks think it's a game, still playing with people's
Yeah.
emotions, thinking they supposed to just be. Again, most of the young men I be talking to, they think they're supposed to have all these random conquests.
No.
Oh, it's disturbing, and especially. And I've always felt this way. I'm not saying this next statement because I have a daughter. It scared me before I had it. It's why I know I'm not a pervert or a pedo bear, because I'm tired of hearing. I'm tired of hearing. If she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breathe. So I'm like, that child looks like a child to me. She just looks like a busty child. Like my thought is, why does that little girl have big titties? I've never looked at a child and been like, oh, no, it's
Food.
a
It's
child.
the food. It's the food.
No, it's the
But
truth. Like, but there's so many guys, they don't think most of that is weird. They don't think the whole young thing because they're used to these older men who wind up getting extremely young wives. Because what is it? What's the biological joke? What's the cosmic joke? Women don't hit y'all don't hit y'all sexual maturity till after 40 or after 10 years of being in a consistent relationship.
mind your business. No.
I was say, hey, I know my
Hold
boy's
on.
living
So
good. I
don't
know my
ask
boy
me.
living good. I know he living good. He got a
I
big
don't
smile
know.
when I see him. Yeah. So, but isn't that the cosmic joke of it all? If you're in one of those couples, you started at 18, y'all got married right out of high school. Y'all hit the 10-year mark at 28.
Right.
Your girl's still trying to learn herself. You 18 to 30 is when we figuring out who we want to be past 30. Honestly, you have a
I,
lot of these men who grew up seeing again y'all together because y'all had this child. I'm the only literal reason y'all met at Freaknik. Y'all realize how many people we know specifically met at shit like Freaknik. Fucking, what's the other one? Oh, what's the other one? It's something in Atlanta, some bop thotty thing.
you
Like
know
most of the people
what?
we knew, those music videos we saw growing up, the back
Oh,
that ass up video, the women who was backing that ass up have kids that are in our age bracket right now.
that is true.
Like you mean to
And
tell me again? Think about it.
that,
Majority of our peers are literally one night stand babies.
but that still circles back, to everything that we're
Damn.
talking about today. As far as trauma, economics, the thing, access to appropriate health care, the things we don't talk about, incest, a lot of things that are very taboo in our communities that just kind of get swept under the rug. It goes back to trauma, generational trauma. And these are the conversations that need to be had in addressing those rectifying those, and putting in preventative measures. Realistically, we can't prevent everything, but we can do our due diligence now. You can't change the past, you can't predict the future, but right now, what can we do right now to start building better communities for us as Black people? Have the conversations, build the communities, build the safe spaces. It's not, and I do, there is a lot of safe spaces that have been created right now for women, but there is a lack for our men to have safe spaces to cry, to be authentic, to remove the mask and say, hey, I'm tired, or hey, I'm just not okay today. They have this narrative that they have to keep up, that they have to be strong. No, it's okay. It is okay to cry. I tell my boys, I have 3 boys, and I tell them all the time, it's okay to cry. That does not make you any less of being a man, learning how to be a man. Talk about your feelings, but I also give them that space to navigate and identify what they're feeling. Okay, you just blew up. Are you really angry? Are you sad? Did I hurt your feelings? Did this situation, I being able to identify emotion, put a word to that emotion, then you can talk about it, because you can't effectively talk about something until you're able to identify it. Identify what you're going through, so that so that you can begin to break that thing down and get to the root. But I do think that Crystal was very right in saying that these spaces really need to be created for our men so that they can heal, and us women need to be more graceful in creating that space. This is not a gender war. This is not pitting. We need each other. You know, we've been through a lot as a community, and we still need each other. We need to break that persona of being independent women, or the men, now they're getting to where they want to be, and they're, well, I can just pay for sex. I can pay for somebody to clean up. But when it's dark and the world has beat you up, and you come home and you take off them, you take off that 3-piece suit, or you take off them sweats, and you unzip, like you said, and you sit at the edge of that bed, and you don't have that feminine energy, or vice versa, to come in and say, how are you, and speak life to you, whatever, whoever you choose to love, if you don't have that person to check in and create that space, or those friendship circles that create those safe spaces and check in with you and say, get your stuff together, you're not healthy.
No facts. No facts. It was this time last year was a rough time of year of life patch for me. Me and one of my best friends definitely sat in the car smoking a J and crying. Definitely. Guy friends. Let me say that one of my boys, I'm not gonna drop his name. He was definitely sitting outside in Chinatown shedding some tears. Shit was frustrating. I'm with you on that. Brothers, I find myself watching shows that'll just bring me to tears sometimes. What's that show? Watching Found on NBC Peacock. You got it. Watch Found. It's got Veronica from Shameless. If you watch Shameless, uh, about a chick who got kidnapped as a kid, held hostage for like 2 years, broke free. Now she runs a detective agency locating missing people. So every episode is all heart touching. Got people being found who was missing and shit. I be shedding tears. It'd be a good cry. Like,
And tears are
don't go
cleansing.
home. You need to cry something. Because I get it.
Cleansing. It's water. Water's fluid.
It's at a point in our life, me speaking as a black man growing up from the 90s, what was that? When 9/11 happened, we was at school. We was at school. They just didn't tell us what happened. Niggas knew what happened when after school. Specifically, me and my brother went to the public library and they had the TV playing it. We had to learn then, what was that, 2011? I was 11 years old and had to get to talk about why it's better to jump off a building than to let yourself get burned alive. It was a whole combo. It's whole combos. We're desensitized. Like a motherfucker. So we get to a point we don't know how to cry. Because I am saying me specifically as I am today. When bad shit happens that I want to cry, I don't know how to just cry. I be wanting to. I don't know how to just sit there and just ball up in tears because I'm so used to going to the angry response. I can control angry.
One title, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Post-traumatic slave syndrome, whole nother topic.
Man.
Epigenetics.
Oh,
that's that word.
Man.
That deep.
I recently, in the last few years, had a real authentic cry of like I'm internally my spirit was crying. That when that moment happened, that's when I knew that I needed therapy. Because your spirit was crying at that point. Because you didn't know why you was crying. Your whole body was just, you laid down. When you, like in those movies where you be seeing them people just laying in their bed, hugging their pillows, crying their eyes out due to whatever that just happened. Those kind of cries only come every once in a while. And at that point I had to realize that like what Sam was saying, I couldn't automatically just go straight to anger, because at that point my body in itself, like your spirit, your subconscious knows when, all right, I'm about to wake you up in the front half of your brain, and just sends your body through that test of trial for you to recognize, okay, yeah, I need something right now, and what I'm doing right now is not helpful. So I get that, and this wholeheartedly. Sometimes those cries, you need to release that emotional tension too, that emotional, physical, and mental tension. That's like the most effective way to do it. And there's nothing wrong with crying, because here another thing with traumas. When you were a kid, men knew this, but I was told this too. But you're not crying for real. It's like, so you saying my feelings, how I'm feeling in this moment that's making me really sad is not real. I was told that. And from that point, it's like, if I do cry, I cry by myself, because I don't want somebody to invalidate that in that moment what I was feeling was not real.
Ooh, and now I cry. Good for that.
No, I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, don't fake tears. Put it into words. If you can't tell me why you're crying, you're not crying. Tell me why. Tell me why you're crying. I say it every time. I try to vocalize that as much as possible. I try to vocalize all the things to avoid so we can heal these traumas, men break the cycle.
Because, a lot of us have heard this, shut up there crying before I give you something to cry for.
I'm already depressed. Now I'm scared. Come on. But like with the tears thing, like we know we just have to. Nobody wants to say it out loud, but that's why we have the hookup culture we do have. Because it is the emotional connection part. Because no matter what y'all like, yes, after the post nut clarity, yes, you get to thinking, oh, that was real intimate. No matter how you did it. It was just y'all literally connected. Like the literal act of sex is gross. Let's be clear. There's nothing about sex that is not gross. Because it's gross. It's two people flopping with holes and orifices and fluids. It's gross. Like it's just two people flopping around on top of each other. It's gross. But when you add the intimacy to it, is when it's like, oh, that shit is awesome. Now, some people don't want to know I can just hook up whatever. No, it's because you've replaced the feeling of actual intimacy with that constant feeling of hunting, the newness. Because that's a self-esteem boost for both sexes, knowing you can grab somebody. Because again, sex is gross. Y'all as women, like me, I say wielders and receivers. All right, Gina, receiver, me, Crystal, wielders. That's how we categorize this across the sexes to be PC. Right? Yeah, right? Cool.
What we gonna do with them, Crystal? What we gonna do with them?
But it made sense though, right? If we oversimplifying this, receivers, wielders. If you're on the receiving end, anybody who's on the wielding end that you've been with, we know what your booty hole look like. Like that's the standard. That's where you start off with any of it. You're a receiver. But it's not intimate. It's not close. It's not like, no, what? That's where we started. But what are you talking about? Like
I'll
if
be
you're a
honest, I
wielder,
don't stare at it.
no wielder has a sexy
Don't
cum face.
stare at it.
I don't
But
stare
you know
at
what
it,
it looked
man.
like though. You can't say you
I
didn't
mean,
see
it's a
it.
booty hole. Everybody got one.
Hey,
One might be hairy, one might
Right.
not be.
Right.
It's generally the
talking
same
about some
though.
right. Sure. I know. Yeah, that's why y'all laughing. Y'all know that. Shit is intimate. Y'all not whoas. Y'all don't be out here showing your booty hole to random motherfuckers. Anybody who seen that booty holes earned them booty hole sites. So y'all like, whatever. He earned the right to see this booty. He can see between my toes if you want. That's what y'all at. So I'm with you on that. Because it's weird. This is weird. Like you drop your pants, like, what is that thing? Why does it have flaps on it?
Not
Be
flat.
honest,
It was-
stare at my
Oh,
dog hole more than anybody else.
what is it? What do is that a
I'm
button?
weak.
Does it do something? Am I
Lord.
supposed to? What does it do?
I'm
You
weak.
know,
If
like
anything, I stare at my dog's booty hole more than anything.
That part.
She's a husky, so her tail is always gonna be up, and she likes to
Oh,
lead the
yeah.
pack. So I see none but butt.
See, and they
Oh,
proud. Dogs walk around proud with no shame because they know when they doing it.
yeah.
Dogs know why they doing it.
And
They
don't
will.
care.
They don't care. We humans though. Some of us are like, what is it? The maned fox. The maned fox is one of the only mammals that doesn't live with its mate. It mates for life. It looks like a fox with like dragged out long as hell legs. They look fascinating as hell. But they live a mile apart from their mate. They'll only come together to mate and like hunt. They won't even hunt together. They hunt separately. They'll just bring the food to a spot where the mate will come get it. Like they don't interact outside of the basic necessities. Some humans are like that. They want to be hermits. They want to live by themselves, but when they call, they want somebody to come up. Find those people. Just find them because you make them more traumas. We breaking people. Like people are just showing up broken. And I feel like this is me. I'm gonna toot my own horn on this one because I feel like I'm low hanging fruit. Especially now with this pink hair. You'd be surprised how many motherfuckers like the pink hair. I'm like, no, I'm just waiting to get enough black to get it shaved off. So, like I'm low hanging fruit because there are so many women that have always thought I was flirting with them because I kept up with details about their life.
Let's talk about that for
Yeah,
a minute.
women like it when you show. That's a form of intimacy for women. When you show that you care about what it is that they're going to, no matter how insignificant it is, that is what's going to addict them to keep coming back.
Let's
And I know that
normalize that
because
being just
it's
friendship,
an
like
addiction.
so.
I could say the same thing for men. Because when a person is able to see through all the stuff and pay attention to you, and that goes back to what I was talking about, being able to feel safe and being able to feel heard in your intimate relationships. That goes both directions, because when I tell I ain't gonna tell all the secrets, but paying attention to my man, those things that go unnoticed by everybody else, I can tell you he appreciates that. And when I asked him, I was like, babe, how did you know that I was the one? He said, because you cared about me. You loved me. And that, I think when you find that, that is the dopest thing. Because when you're able to pay attention, like somebody said, when you go silent, those things that you don't say, those other things that, when everybody else is thinking that you're okay and you're not okay, and you're able to reach that and pull that out, that's the goatness. So I don't really necessarily, I get what y'all saying, but that goes back to that trauma thing, and I know we don't like to talk about it, because when people of other ethnicities say this, we talking about our absent fathers, our broken homes, where we weren't nurtured what is it, nature and nurture,
Mm-hmm.
when those things don't happen, and then we get in our adult lives and we start looking for our partners, you know, y'all telling y'all's cheat code a little bit, when you're out in the field and you're playing, how to reel them in, like you said, all you got to do is pay attention to them a little bit, give them a little bit to reel them in and keep them coming back. But I
But can
think,
we
like I said,
talk about how we like that's low hanging fruit. Like, let's normalize this, people. Like, let's stop, because I keep putting it on Facebook and like folks be laughing at it, but I'm so serious. Like, stop fucking these people that don't respect you at all, like at all. Like, if you just want somebody that's completely detached, get a vibrator. The roses are on sale right now for like $17 on Amazon. Like, just get something. Like, I don't get it. Like, the internet is literally full of sex tapes of
They
girls
got
being
groups for that kind of
exposed.
stuff too. Stop
Right.
messing with people. Stop fucking with people's emotions.
Just stop. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Just stop, because it's just sex. Just jack off at home, because like the extra parts are ruining this person for the next person. Because I'm saying, as a heterosexual man, we are on the winning side. Every day I wake up with my junk, I'm happy because I'm on the winning end of sex. No matter how horrible it is, I can somehow finish. On y'all end, that's just a fucking gamble. You're just letting somebody flop the fuck around on top of you. This nigga might be a piece of shit who just decides to just poke your cervix the whole time, thinking that shit's supposed to be great. Then he might be a fucking real piece of shit, pull the rubber off at a point, because you won't know the rubber's off if your ass in the air till he's in you.
Look, what platform are you putting this on? Because I don't want you to get flagged, but I call that using the woman to masturbate, because essentially that's what you're doing. When you're doing it without emotion or, any type of intimate connection, essentially you're just masturbating. You're using her body to masturbate.
That's literally exactly what I say. I say that exact term.
Women are human
I'm putting the video up everywhere because it's wholesome. We're not being gross about it. This is very educational about it, because there's no need to use anyone else to masturbate unless y'all are in a relationship. Because if y'all are actually in a relationship, your partner wants you to use them to masturbate. It's just that simple, right?
But sex is so much deeper than that. It literally is, and I know you guys have seen the acronym sex. What is it? Sacred energy exchange. It literally is an energy exchange. That's a whole nother topic, a whole nother podcast. But essentially, it's a connection. That unk life. Like I said, it's a whole. I know Sam know where I'm going with that. Like I said, it's just a whole different vibe.
It's the truth, but it's on that list of traumas that we are scared to talk about. Because unfortunately, again, I say the bashes towards the Christian folks because I grew up Christian in the church. You're not going to church to get sex talks.
But you should be.
Right? That should be one of the things we talk about.
That's part of your structure. When you get into psychology and mental health, as children, because that's where it starts in your family structure, in your spiritual beliefs.
Let me put the disclaimer. Somebody listening
is
is confused. Let's make sure we put the disclaimer, because they're hearing you, but the problem is they're hearing you through this lens. Sex is not just the physical flopping around. We are not just talking about copulation. We are talking about the entire act. Sex is the intimacy involved around it.
Spirit.
So I knew somebody was hearing it wrong. I'm like, wait, let's put that and make sure this context, because it's a whole thing. It's how we interact with people, how we do want it, the friendships we build, the way we might help raise our children and the tribe's children, because we just know.
Yeah, it's a spiritual connection. I fully, wholeheartedly believe that, because when you're giving anybody some of your fluids, that is a form of connection that you will, because you're going to always remember whether that was a good or bad feeling or a mad feeling, you're going to always forever and remember that feeling. And even then you're going to imagine it at some point. And the fucked up part of it is whether it was a good experience or whether it was like somehow some children may have those traumatic experience too soon. And that is definitely for some people the start of how they would perceive sexual relationships, from that point going further to the point where they just elude or they don't even put any kind of emotions in it because of previous childhood trauma, teenage, or anything like that kind of trauma, and realizing that the spiritual aspect of it really affects how they'll move forward with that specific type of trauma.
These are the truths.
I'm gonna put in the plug again. In the words of my good sis Crystal, go get therapy.
Therapy, people. Therapy, because man, we gotta talk about it.
Mhm.
Let's normalize friend circles doing
Therapy and
being
heal.
therapists.
Mindfulness and heal. Do all of those things.
Yeah, I agree. Therapy, if it was not for therapy, the shit that I'm going through right now, I wouldn't have made it. I ain't gonna even lie. Because there's a certain you have to realize that with some of your traumas, there are a lot of cracks in your persona and a lot of cracks in regards to the ways that you handle things. And there's sometimes those cracks, depending on how big the blow is, it's bleeding. And while now you're here just bleeding all over yourself, you're confused. Now you're making irrational decisions because you're trying to move so quickly because of an instance that may have happened. So yeah, I fully agree with all that. So
And we gonna hit some closing remarks because that is we can go on for trauma forever. We're gonna do money more because we gonna keep adding more people to the panel to talk about it. Because again, the goal is to make a platform to talk about it. That's my ultimate goal as always. I could talk all day from sun up to sundown because I talk too much. Yeah, it's the truth. I know it. I'm being accountable. I know. But in the interest of trying to turn it into a healthy tool, I like listening as much as I like talking. The goal is for anybody listening. That's why I keep saying we're putting the link publicly, because we're gonna do some more dives on the different categories for trauma, because the childhood sexual trauma is like at the top of the list. If you just Google the word trauma, it'll just start with 15 to 20 examples of the different reasons why you're not supposed to touch kids. And it's a shame that we still have to make a long list of reasons as to why you shouldn't touch kids. And it's even more sad because the folks who don't realize that they have childhood sexual trauma, they started fucking like 18 to 20. They don't think of it as a childhood trauma. But you didn't date anybody. You did none of the romantic stuff. You never had nobody pass the note saying yes, no, maybe. All of your literal sexual advancement started at 18. That's still childhood trauma for you where it started.
Or younger, honestly.
Because the younger ones, I only passed over the younger ones because I wanted to be obvious. Because any of us who started in high school, once we hit this adult age, we're like, should have waited. That was that was peer pressure all the time, because it didn't matter what. Growing up as a black boy in any of the schools, as soon as you flirt with a girl, the boy's first answer, how many times you sleep with her? They said it way more gross than that. I don't feel like editing any more curse words out. But it's like, come on, do I have to? Yeah, y'all not, what, do we have to? As children, yeah, you do not have to sleep with nobody. Even as adults, you don't have to. But as an adult, I feel the need to say this because this is also a harmful trauma statement. I'm gonna deep dive it later. Being in a relationship with someone that you are not sexually attractive to is very bad. Male or female, and anything in between. If you're not sexually, meaning you will sleep, this person walking in the room doesn't give you insert your gender statement boner. Y'all just friends, and that's okay. Because again, like I said, if you look at my phone, you will see those women. I do not want to sleep with, factually, out of the 6, I factually do not want to sleep with 4 of them. Factually.
hey,
One of
two
them is
of
the
them.
mother of my child.
I was doing that too. I was like, oh, so it's 2. Okay.
You see what I'm getting at?
You touching on yourself today, Sam. It's okay.
It's just, you see what I'm saying? It's just that, it's okay to put people where you need to put them. And again, the manatee mermaid theory is a real thing. So yes, all those manatees eventually become mermaids, because those 4 women, they're drop dead gorgeous. Definitely. Oh, they baddies. But if we was on a deserted island, it would be a very long time before I would be looking at them, like, ooh. But anyway, that's more on the nerdy side, because again, I never understood in the apocalypse scenarios why people be having so much sex. Like, what? Like, y'all haven't showered ever. Neither of y'all got book bags, so I know y'all not carrying around tampons and stuff. There's no way we're risking giving anybody a yeast infection or any of the worst UT anything. It's
That's a
zombies.
whole other podcast.
Because that's a problem. That really is. I'm gonna do a nerdy one to say the
You
problems in
just
an
said
apocalypse, and
something
it's like,
about
why
yeah.
I got so horny in the apocalypse.
Not even the apocalypse, just the spiritual, the aura when you come together. That's a whole nother topic.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. We go because that's so people listening. If you got nothing else from this, let's toss that out there. If y'all ain't getting nothing else from this therapy, that's at the top of the list. There, we toss some therapy out there.
And for me, I have to stay true to who I am. And I am a strong, my disclaimer, advocate for mental health. However, I do believe in a holistic approach to that, specifically for our melanated community. And I know that we're going to definitely delve into that. But how we address ourselves as a melanated community is very important. We can't do things like everybody else. Um, but the bottom line is sage that shit.
Yes, it.
Align it, get it right. If you know you have a problem, stop running. It's time to stop running. It's time to do the work. It's time to heal and live the life that you know that you deserve. Nobody want, life is short. We're here for a little bit, not for a long time. And you want to enjoy the time that you're here. Nobody wants to be unhappy forever. And nobody deserves to be unhappy. Heal.
Not a soul, not a soul. I try to say it all the time. That's one of the regular posts. I post that. If no one's told you today, I love you. Posts. As I'm saying, nobody told you today. Anybody listening, I love you. I'm a hippie in that sense. I love all mankind. I'd have the big old commune and the apocalypse. That'd be me. I'd be letting people in.
It is okay to walk away from anything and everybody, friends, family, any title that you want to put on it. If it does not support your mental and overall well-being, walk away. And I know I'm gonna step on a lot of toes with that.
Mm-hmm.
We like to put well, that's your sister, that's your brother, that's your mom, that's your auntie, that's your uncle, that's your best friend. Walk away.
I wholeheartedly agree. If you know that where you are right now, you've came so far from what you were previously. You went through those trials and tribulations to grow to the point that you are at. And you see that with unfortunate life circumstances is going to try to put you back to somewhere where you know is not going to invest in the mentality that you have grown and trying to continue to grow, then there's no point in you returning back to that farce because it's going to do nothing but set you back, put you in a deep depression, and then put you somewhere that you definitely did not want to be. So I am definitely a strong advocate for that. Like, have those conversations, get those boundaries in place when talking to these people. Because if when you even try or you try to have that conversation, just be self-aware of yourself in their responses to what you have to say. Because when it comes to communication, you'll definitely see and hear, especially when you're in a healed mindset, when somebody is disregarding what you're saying, when they're just skating over what you're saying, when they're not even acknowledging where you have come from, where you're trying to go, because they're still stuck in their mindset because they feel as though that there's nothing wrong with them, even though they know that it is. And that's the crazy part. You know it's something wrong. You just ain't going to acknowledge that something's wrong because you already know it's something wrong.
The air is to be human.
And that's the worst thing. We can point out everything wrong about everybody else, but when we sitting in front of that mirror and we're forced and we're put in the situations where, like you said, it's either fight or flight, most often we're gonna fight and fight and flee.
That's
And
it.
I
That's
agree,
what
Chris.
we at. But you know what? I appreciate y'all for taking this time out for us to go to the dark places, to try to help our people heal. It's like nobody wants to start the day off talking about trauma, but you know what? I'll be feeling lighter talking about it. Talking about the things, you feel a little lighter. I feel like it was a nice little therapy rant session. I feel like we all got some stuff out. Hopefully somebody listening gets something. Hey, till next time though, I like to flip coins, and when I get, it's like serious topic, nerdy topic. I think my next 3 got to be like nerdy now.
Yeah, this was heavy.
This was a heavy one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick some cartoons. Attack on Titan just ended. I think that's gonna be the next topic. I'm gonna dive into that. But I appreciate y'all so much. Until next time.
Peace, family.
Peace out.
It's Crystal. My name is Athena. Follow me on social media. Athena the Goddess. I got music out. Let's get
Gina
it.
Walton. Our Wellness Academy. You can find me on Instagram.
Here, I'm gonna put y'all tags all through the video. I got y'all.
I got one more. Also,
Make
I have a
sure you
business
follow me,
guide,
Crystal.
Crystal Clear Consulting. I'm also a life insurance agent, so I help educate people on how you can use life insurance to build generational wealth, as well as to maintain financial security for your family. So definitely follow me, Instagram, Facebook. My name's Crystal. Hashtag also Athena. You guys have a great day.
Period.
Peace.
We came from the bottom for finding a way to go get it. Go get it. Hey. Now we on time, nigga. Now we put on for our city. Yeah. Two for say huncho, you get it, LeBron. Can't wait till the day that we win it. Can't wait. You can rest in peace now, bro, cause nigga, we did it. We with it. We winning.